Hey guys, Fred Kynes, All Kinds of Classics. Thanks for taking the time to look at this video. The big ding deal here is that we're taking the 1953 HEMI. Now that we've got her all built up and sitting in the car, we need to see if this sucker will run. So you saw from episodes back that I went to the pick and pull and I pulled the power control module or the engine computer module, whatever we want to call it, out of the 2001 Dodge Ram 1500 pickup with a 5.2 liter engine. And that 318, in my estimation, with the fuel injection system and all of that, design was comparable in size to the 331, right? So, so what I've opted to do here is get the 331 built and then run it off of that power control unit. So I'm in the process in this video of setting that up, and we're taking a look at the beginnings of wiring and getting this 331 HEMI to run on that computer. There'll be a few videos involved here. Please watch. Click the like button. Click the subscribe button if you want to stay with me over the course of this build, and throw me some comments. I love new ideas, and keep it rolling. Thanks, guys. Well, that's the state, about the state it was in, other than I took a 4-gauge wire and the terminals on the end for the alternator. Then I spent the day fabbing up an alternator bracket. He's in paint right now, but turned out really nice. So it's going to mount through the at the bottom through the alternator into the head. This mounts into the water pump. Those are the two spacers to get it the distance out. So the heads have a 5/16 hole tapped into them. I ran a 5/16 drill in. It's a blind hole. I ran it in as a drill tap for the 3/8 and then tapped it out to 3/8, so that it gives me a little more beef. It's in shear anyway across here, but I just, didn't want to turn a bolt down because the rest of the alternator needs a 3/8. And then I'm grabbing the top hole on the alternator. So these 2 points are holding the bracket, if you will, and the cage, the bottom of the alternator, and then the adjustment is on the top, like a traditional non-serpentine setup. I fabbed it up. Took quite a bit because I had to roll that. I made it on a 10 gauge, and I had to roll that 10 gauge around that outside bracket. So I made the outside piece first. And then I rolled that over. It's actually two pieces. One is with the bend for the water pump, and then I just put a seam weld in it. I think I can see it on this side. Right there. And then I stitched it up and down 2 inches, continuous weld from the outside with 100% penetration to the inside corner. So turned out cool. It'll be on in a little while. I want it to dry out. So then that'll round out everything except for the air conditioner if I choose to go. Oh, and the crank position sensor, but that's going to actually be quite easy. I'm going to have to grab probably these two. Let me get the alternator wire out of the way. These two. Get one, something along that line. But there's nothing else down in there. It really just needs stability. There's not a whole bunch, there's no weight there. It just needs to be stable and and have the ability to you know, establish a clearance to the star wheel, to the you know, this guy, reluctor. So if I can get somewhat perpendicular to the reluctor, put a couple of slots in, small slots into a bracket, and then tack it, build my way back to those 2 bolts. Be nice to use these 2, but I think by the time I was all said and done, I'd be covering up my timing marks. I don't know, jury's out, so I suppose I can get that piece of tape off of there. But anyway, that's what we got going on, and like I said in the last video, in the last run here, probably hold off on the AC for now. I don't know, maybe not. We'll just see how it goes. If I get a real happy day to go after it, I'll go after it. Otherwise, it's functional. Once I get that crank position sensor in, squirt that pulley, we're in business for firing and running. So there you have it. Talk to you later. All right, well, we got the alternator drive is on, power steering drive is on, and the crank position sensor is on. The routing of the wire prevents it from interfering. I got my gap, should be about 80 thou, and she's pointed toward the center, so the angle is good relative to the wheel. I just have to lengthen the wires. The cable is sitting right here. I just have to lengthen them, identify a method of fastening them, and just get this routed down and round. I probably, maybe one of the oil pan bolts or 2 of the oil pan bolts can serve as a hanger for a loom to keep the wire up and keep it out of the heat. So that wound up working pretty well. So the only other wire in the input side of this, out by this, on the front engine side of this, is the AC. What is it? AC air conditioning select signal wire for the AC is on, and I'm sure that helps with stepping up the idle, playing with the timing, that kind of stuff. And again, not too excited about that right now, or interested on that right now. At this point, finish up that pigtail, sort those 34 wires, so we can get this flashed. So we can get this started up, flashed, and smelling right, like exhaust fumes. So it's been going really good. Happy with it so far. The belt wrap, some of you might say, hey, the belt wrap on that water pump it's not even 90 degrees. Right after I get off of this, I'm gonna look for a double pulley water pump pulley, and then take that second one and come around and grab this, so that I can get, in that manner, then I'd get, well over 90. I'd get close to 180 degrees of wrap with the sum of the 2 belts. So that does look a little shy, and I don't want a slipping belt on a water pump. So that's what I'm thinking. All right, thanks, folks. All right, today's affair was to build the dashboard, that ignition, starter, No plugs in it. I made the appropriate connections. I'm just going through a trailer harness, labeled everything negative, positive, start and ignition. In this case, because this is a crank triggered ignition system, it also comes with a fail-safe automatic shutdown relay, which it's auto shut off or something like that, but ASO it's called, right? Yeah, or maybe it's called ASD. Looks like ASO to me. Relay. So essentially it takes the battery in on pin 30 and energizes that input on the module, as well as the injectors. No, it's a generator, fuel pump, the ignition coil, and the O2 sensors. So what I'm doing is I'm just jumpering the bat and this port through the connector right here. I'm simulating a closed relay situation. So now that relay is closed. And then I've just simply taken the coil. So I want to make sure that I'm picking up on the, again, sorry, I'm all over the place, but this distributor doesn't have anything to do with any power voltage generation or spark triggering. It only has the distribution block on the top side of the distributor, taking the coil pulse and distributing it to the plugs. Beneath that is just a cam position sensor, an on-off at 180 degree trigger. So all of the spark triggering comes from the 8 where am I at here? On this pickup coil that I put on, it comes from that wheel. It comes from that wheel triggering that spark at the right time for that pulse and distributing it through that, to the plugs, out to the plugs. Now I'm confident I don't have this all properly timed, but I have tested it through the distributor and I do get a spark. Directly from the coil, I will show you. I will power up, energize, and crank. Whoa. Well, that is very odd because I had a spark. Well, we'll have to let me try a sorry about that. I'm going to try a different method here. We'll come out with this one, because I did have a spark, but I don't know what I did now. That's not good news. There it is. It's the plug wire. I switched the plug wire. These are old plug wires, And so anyway, my signal works. I'm robust. Disconnect that. What would be a relay. And now I've got to time this properly with the crank position sensor. The only thing I'm trying to identify with at this point is where properly indexing the crank sensor, where I think I've got it close right now. I want to dial it in, and I'm trying to reverse engineer a process to do that. So it's got to be 17.5 degrees to the trigger, and my brain is going wild, but I think I just might have figured something out. So that's what I'm working on. Once I get that going, then I can, this is just press fit onto the back of the pulley at this point. Then I can tack weld it on. I will only tack weld it first until I run the engine, and then pull it off again and finish weld it. And after that's in, then I can go through the procedure for properly clocking the distributor and cam position sensor so that the injector pulses are properly sequenced. I know it sounds crazy, but I've been into this so much that I basically got it all in my head, and I'm probably overcomplicating it in conversation. But I have Spark, which is the glorious news for the day. Thanks, guys. We'll get back into it later. Hey, guys, I'm sorry I didn't show it. I just realized right now that I didn't film anything. So I had a friend of mine over who was an electrical engineer, and we plugged it into the oscilloscope on the old Magnum, on the old HEMI, using the Magnum 2000 Dodge Magnum 5.2 liter ECM. I identified on the crank, I've since rotated the engine, 17.5 degrees after top dead center. Put my reference pointer on that 17.5 degrees, and then proceeded in tapping this reluctor until I got my 5 volt, just hit 5 volt signal in the direction of rotation. Okay, so once I established that, then I came and properly clocked my distributor until I just achieved, in this instance, a 5 volt signal, or the switch from the 0 volt to 5 volt signal, to establish my injector timing relative to my crank position, because my basis is my crank position. My injector timing is based, it compares my cam position to determine whether it's that bank or this bank. Right? No. One through the first 4 cylinders or the second 4 cylinders on the distributor. So, right? 1, 8, 4, 3, 6, 5, 7, 2. So, with that dialed in and that dialed in, then I ran the starter with the scope running and did a compare of the two graphs, and I'm in. I'm directly in. The only possible margin on this is that 17.5 degree established location for the crank position sensor, because that's built into, the ring gear or the flex plate as a window, right? And you can only put a flex plate on one way because of the bolt pattern. So Chrysler designed that in, but I was able to validate through Master Mechanic, a couple of Master Mechanics and several other blogs that confirmed that were unrelated, that 17.5 degrees was it. So although I haven't established the theory as a fact in my head, personally, others probably have, I'm confident that 17.5 is the mark to use, 17.5 degrees after top dead center. So the result is that's all set up. We've established that spark does occur with the ECU, but I just put 4 tacks 90 degrees apart from each other, not under this. I don't want to distort this. That will be 4 1-inch stitches at some point in time when I am confident that the engine's broken in, my timing curve works, everything's fine, and that should be within the next few weeks. But at this point now, I've got a reluctor wheel on my lower pulley assembly, which in fact I can spray paint this now, and I am ready to start getting everything going on the break-in process for this HEMI. So that's pretty exciting news. Pretty exciting news. Stick with me. We'll see you later. Hey guys. Wow. What a morning. Went to the salvage yard. Got the relay box from a 96 Durango, which happens to be the same place I got the steering wheel, same vehicle. And the interior harness along with the fuse box. When I was digging through it, I found it so nice to get a what is that? A 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 20 fuse with all of the door chime and the everything else right in there, and even another relay socket, but it's it's empty. But it's unpinned. In any event, so I got that from that vehicle. It's a 96, so it is ODB2. Okay, which means not a whole bunch to me, other than the correlation between the potentially the wired colors, which wasn't totally the case, but is the case quite a bit because of the two. This is all 2000. That's 2000. So right now, it's a spaghetti mess, but I took all the time and labeled all of the 34 wires coming to the bulkhead connector. Should have been an earlier video. I've got the ALDL or assembly line data link, or the I've always called it the ALDL. It's called about 14 different things. I got my trailer connector to my dashboard, which is my ignition and my start. And I took the time and pinned all the wires according to the wiring diagram for the 2000. I don't know if I've showed you this before, but this is the PCM that I'm using, and sprinkled around it are the various components that are supported by this PCM. And basically, I did a little bit of marking. This document is going to be a rag when I'm done, but as long as I got my port location, cavity, port, whatever, I can find it on here. That takes me to the wire color and the identification of the function of that particular wire color. So, clearly up through the bulkhead, we're not going to have the coil drivers, and we're not going to have the injectors. Those things aren't going to be running up into the interior. Those are going to be isolated within the engine, within the wiring harness that's already on the engine. But
the relays and all the fused items will certainly need it. So what basically I've done is I've gone in and I identified all 34 by wire color, went backwards. And if I was concerned about the wire color at the bulkhead connector, I would do a pin test on C1, C1 being the gray connector, terminal 1, because I know that C1 is going to provide this function. And I sat there. I sat there a whole frickin' day identifying that. Some of you have too. It's just part of the plan. Then when I got that Durango relay box, well, first off, what I identified in this was, hey, I should go back. I get myself excited. I need a fuel pump relay. I need an auto shut off relay or automatic shutdown relay. I need a compressor relay. Number 3, I need an engine start relay, which basically is my car neutral safety switch. So I needed those relays. And I need a transmission relay to turn on the governor, the torque converter clutch, and the 3/4 shift. So all the overdrive stuff on these trannies, this is a 727, but with a electronic valve body and an overdrive to make it a 4-speed. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 relays. This box, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 relays. There is a 6th, but that's empty. It's not pinned. So that worked out slick. And then it drives through these large capacity fuses. Okay. I thought they were circuit breakers, but to me they look more like fuses than circuit breakers. Anyway, so it drives those large current fuses. And in this case, 3 of these, I don't know which ones, are run off of these 2 fuses. Or maybe even all 5. I don't remember. And then some of these other fuses go straight in. For example, the yellow wire is the ignition wire. So this is all bat in. This is all under the hood, typically. Solid bat, and then you port into the interior fuse box and the ignition switch to get your battery straights fuses and your ignition fuses and your accessory 1, accessory 2, which is ignition 1, ignition 2. Oh, and your start. So these will provide, the rest of the fuses will be the high current fuses, the mains, if you will, that will go to the sub fuses within the interior. So, and more than likely, I'll put those both in the interior. I don't know where I'm going to put them yet, but right now I've got it all pinned out. If I turn this on, you hear the fuel pump, and I don't have the starter wire on. I just have the relay on, or the solenoid on. So all that's up. It's fired up. It's ready to go. So essentially, the engine would start. My spark plug wire termination tool is expected to be in the mail today so that I can finish the spark plug wires. As you can see, the fuel pump is running, building pressure. So the system is energized. These rails are energized. I can poke the Schrader. I can get fuel, but I think you already saw that video where I did the fuel line test. I've gotten spark. She's good to go. I got the neutral safety switch connected so that the vehicle doesn't take off, but I'm going to jack that up anyway because I want to go through the gears after I do run it. So she's going to be ready for cam brake in 20 minutes at 2,500 pretty soon. I got to figure out a way to prop this to 2,500, and maybe I'll do something to just make sure I can hold it there and walk away. I ordered the radiator today. It's going to be about a week and a half. I'm going to try to get the fan belt and the radiator, or the alternator and the radiator. The power steering parts, talk to the The gentleman that supplied me the front end, he didn't ship them to me. Back in February when he invoiced me, it said later. And I called him, talked to him yesterday, and that was because I didn't know what I was using. Excuse me, I didn't know what I was using for a pump. So he's sending me the hose kit and the not the pressure, but the volume reducing component that goes on the back of this to get it from 3 GPM to 2 GPM for this Thunderbird rack. So we are so close to firing this guy up. So close. So close. The only fluid not in this thing at this moment, in this powertrain, is the or it's two things. The power steering fluid's not in it, and the engine coolant. Other than that, it's wet and ready to ride. All right, more later. Keep them watching.
Well, at this point, what I did was I basically put the ends on the distributor ends on the plug wires. Got two. They're not, really arranged or anything per se. Just got the lengths kind of tied out so it looks decent. There's one option. You kind of come out the back side of the valve cover, and that's the factory option with the covers. And the other option is to show them. And quite frankly, I don't know which looks better. I am going to clean up the valve covers and probably hit them again with paint, believe it or not. But I don't know. That looks kind of cool. And then you just get in there with the looms, right? And maybe even come off of here. Come off of these posts with the looms. Or maybe I'd break those welds and just get those off altogether. I don't know. Thinking it through. Because if I do repaint them, I could just basically get rid of those. But she is looking really cute. Just a quick update.